Bengals fans, what is going on? Stone Shields on hand for another live edition of Bengals Breakdown. Thanks so much for joining us here this afternoon at about the 4:15 p.m. Eastern slate. We will try to make this our normal live show time here going forward on Wednesdays. This is always our goal, 4:15 on Wednesdays for about an hour, and we'll see how long we can ride this wave out. I appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Got about 35 people in here already. Usual suspects, of course. Tim Tyra is here. He says, what's going on? Himothy Prods is here as well. Dasha Walters is here. Derek's Young. All lots of usual suspects here, so really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in here at Bengals Breakdown. The first question I will present to you guys is, will the Cincinnati Bengals extend Trey Hendrickson? Type Y for yes or N for no. It's going to be one of the main focuses for us in our first segment here this afternoon. Kelsey Conway of the Inquirer is down at the Senior Bowl right now in Mobile, Alabama, and she had a chance to sit down and talk with Duke Tobin, who Duke Tobin, of course, is really the de facto GM for the Cincinnati Bengals, albeit not technically their general manager, as Cincinnati technically doesn't have a general manager, but for all intents and purposes, he is. And he had some interesting comments in regards to Trey Hendrickson as well as Jamar Chase. So let me know if you think the Bengals will reach an extension with Trey Hendrickson. Hendrickson, of course, is entering the final year of his contract. You don't typically see players of his caliber go into the season on an expiring contract, especially considering that he led the NFL in sacks with 17.5 here in 2024. We'll give some shout-outs here. Chase Prods is spamming his Y in the comment section. He says, hey, what's going on, Chase? Appreciate you hanging out, my man. He seems pretty confident that the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson are going to be able to come to terms on an extension. Dalton Mitchell also with his Y in the comment section, along with Derek's Young. Lots of Y's in the comment section. Your local idiot with a Y in the comment section. Andrew, Colin B. Basson, lots of confidence from you Bengals fans that Cincinnati is going to be able to reach an extension with Trey Hendrickson. We'll see, as we'll detail here in our first segment once some more people start to file in here. Bengals have a very busy offseason ahead of them. Obviously, you got the issues on defense, but you've got a lot of star players on your team that are looking for big contracts. So we'll see if the Bengals will be able to get it done with all of them, some of them, or none of them. Hopefully, at least we can get Jamar Chase figured out, but we will continue to discuss that as we progress through today's show. I don't believe we have one N in the comment section. How about that? Still haven't seen one. So everybody in the chat at this point, about 50 or so people, pretty confident in the Cincinnati Bengals that they will be able to figure this out. We'll continue here in a moment, but first, got to give a shout out to our two live sponsors here today, the first of which being GameTime. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. They've got a new feature called GameTime Picks. Makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It helps you filter out all the fluff. It shows you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. Really love GameTime and appreciate them helping us out here on today's show and being our sponsor. Make sure you guys download the GameTime app. Use code ChatSports to get $20 off your first purchase. Again, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Today's show is also made possible by PrizePicks. The big game is almost here. It's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. PrizePicks is also giving away a free pick for the big game. That is Patrick Mahomes more than half a passing yard. We're one of the starting quarterbacks. We only need to throw 1 yard to win. That, of course, is Patrick Mahomes. If you're correct on at least one more stat projection, you can win real cash. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's PrizePicks. Run your game. Also going to be spending some time talking about Mike Gesicki on today's show, because if you did not hear the news yesterday, we had a video come out for you guys yesterday afternoon. Eric All Jr. unfortunately is expected to miss the entirety of the 2025 season. Of course, All tore his ACL in early November. I believe the Bengals were playing the Raiders at that point, early November, something like that. And unfortunately, it looks like he's going to need another knee surgery, and that basically will restart his timeline. So we'll get this surgery in a couple of weeks, and that'll essentially be restart the timeline. And then, as we know, ACL is typically a year, and people within the organization not optimistic that he's going to be able to return in 2025. So Mike Gesicki becomes that more important for you. Gesicki, of course, had a breakout season playing with Joe Burrow, but is a free agent. He will become a free agent in March, and we'll see if he goes elsewhere or if Cincinnati is able to strike a deal to keep him in Cincinnati. Will the Bengals bring back Mike Gesicki? Type B for bring back or L for let leave. I really want Gesicki back, as I've detailed here throughout several shows here on Bengals Breakdown. But you look at all the offseason things that you need to do. Jamar Chase, Trey Hendrickson, Tee Higgins. Are you going to be able to bring all those guys back and Mike Gesicki back, who, by the way, has never been more valuable in his NFL career, coming off the best year of his career playing with Joe Burrow? I don't know. I think he certainly was going to have to take a pay cut if he wants to sit in Cincinnati. And is he really at that point where that's something he wants to do? If I'm Mike Gesicki, I'm probably trying to get the most money I possibly can after the season which he had. Don't know if that's going to be feasible here in Cincinnati, but hope I am wrong. Lots of B's in the comment section. I like all you Bengals fans. We don't really have any negative Bengals fans in the comment section right now. You guys are my kind of people. We're all positive. We all believe that this organization will do the things that they should do this offseason, put the best roster out there on the football field. We'll see if they'll be able to make it happen. But lots of B's in here. I think everybody really was pleased with Mike Gesicki and with what he was able to bring to the table for this franchise in 2024. Tim Tyre says the Bengals will do great with the overhaul. He's confident that Cincinnati will be able to execute this offseason from a front office perspective, which I would argue is the weak link of your organization as a whole, more so than even the defense, believe it or not. Andrew says if the Bengals don't win a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow, it will be one of the most wasted talents ever. That is absolutely 100% the truth right there, my friend Andrew. Absolutely. But as long as he stays in Cincinnati, we actually have a snippet from Kelsey Conway that we'll get to at the end of our first segment that should give you guys a lot of optimism about Joe Burrow sticking around for not only past this contract, but hopefully for the entirety of his career. But I agree. But if Joe Burrow is here for this long, mark my words, Cincinnati will be world champions one day. Also going to be talking draft here on today's live edition of Bengals Breakdown. Cincinnati, of course, has that number 17 overall selection. It's been a lot of controversy. I shouldn't say controversy, more conversation about what Cincinnati should do at that number 17 spot. I had a poll up on my Twitter the other day. I was asking you guys what position you want to take there. Whether it be defensive line, defensive back, linebacker, or just take the best player available. I think all really are good options. Offensive line, of course, an option as well. And now, over the course of the past 24 hours or so, there's been some conversation about potentially taking a tight end. What if Tyler Warren slips all the way down to that 17 spot? Do you snipe him there if you're Duke Tobin, Zach Taylor, and company? I think now it becomes a conversation, especially if you're not able to bring back Mike Gesicki. But I feel like you got more needs. Right, I'm looking for a guy, I've said it multiple times here, defensively that can come in and make an impact day one. No projects, all right? I don't think you need skill guys either, even if you're not able to retain Tee Higgins. I'm looking for a defensive guy that can come in, that is a mature guy, that's played some big-time football. Feels like I'm describing Malachi Starks here, and can go out there and contribute for you immediately. That's what I'm looking for. Colin says Mykel Williams. Would love Mykel Williams if he fell to 17. Absolutely. Tim Tyra, Malachi Starks, if he's available. Trust me, Tim, our last segment, you don't want to miss out on that. I'm very high on Malachi Starks. I'm pretty excited about Malachi Starks, and you've seen some mock drafts, as we will get into, that have him slipping a little bit and would be available at number 17. I think if he's there, you got to take him, but we'll get to that as our last segment. Chase says Abdul Carter. He's not going to at 17, unfortunately. That guy's an unbelievable player. Some people have mocked him number 1 overall, which, again, we'll get into today. But would love to have him in Cincinnati, but Unfortunately, I don't think that really is realistic whatsoever. All right, if you are ready for us to start our live show here on a Wednesday, hit that thumbs up icon for us if you have not done so already. At about 80 people in here and about 23 likes. Always going for that 50-50 like ratio between viewership and likes. Not quite there. We'll get to 30 here before we move on, so keep hitting that thumbs up icon for us if you have not done so already. We will get ready to tell you what is on tap for our live show. There we go. 30 likes. Appreciate everybody that hit that thumbs up icon for us on today's show. Coming up live here on Bengals Breakdown. First segment, of course, going to be talking about the latest Cincinnati Bengals news and rumors. We're going to be talking a lot about contracts, specifically those of Trey Hendrickson and Ja'Marr Chase. That is segment number 1. Segment number 2, again, I forgot to say it before now, but I should have been telling you guys from the jump. Get in those questions for our mailbag. And we're doing a live mailbag here on Bengals Breakdown. Use hashtag Bengals in order to get in on it, or Super Chat. Skip the line altogether with a super chat. Got my right-hand man, Chris Daughtry, producing for us here this afternoon. If you don't use hashtag Bengals, Chris can't filter through all the comments and find yours. So get those questions in. It's our second segment of the afternoon. Hashtag Bengals. Anything you want to talk about. Offseason, free agency, NFL draft, Joe Burrow, whatever the case may be, get those questions in hashtag Bengals. And lastly, segment number 3, going to be taking a look at Daniel Jeremiah's round 1 mock draft. We're going to take a look at most of the picks in the first round and who he's got Cincinnati taking at that number 17 spot. That's all coming up live here on Bengals Breakdown. What's going on, Bengals fans? Stone Shields on hand for another edition of Bengals Breakdown. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up icon for us if you have not done so already. Our Browns Report host, Matthew Peterson, we call him Petey here at Chat Sports, bet we couldn't get 500 likes on today's show. He's a Browns host. We don't like the Cleveland Browns here. Let's prove him wrong. Hit that thumbs up icon and let's blow that 500 number out of the water. All right, here's what is on tap today here at Bengals Breakdown. Kelsey Conway, who of course does a tremendous job covering the Cincinnati Bengals for the Inquirer, is down in Mobile, Alabama right now for the Senior Bowl, and she had an opportunity to talk with Duke Tobin, who of course is the Bengals' de facto general manager, technically the director of player personnel, but basically their general manager. He had some interesting comments in regards to Trey Hendrickson, Ja'Marr Chase, and their contracts and future with the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to be diving into that here on today's edition of Bengals Breakdown. Let's start with Trey Hendrickson. Hendrickson, of course, is entering the final year of his contract and is set to make $15.8 million next season. And Trey Hendrickson obviously is one of the stars of your football team. You look at Joe Burrow, you look at Ja'Marr Chase, Tee Higgins, your next dog is Trey Hendrickson. And he really was able to make his presence felt this season, having those 17.5 sacks, which of course led the National Football League. And it's rare for a player of his caliber to go into a season on an expiring contract. And I think he certainly is looking for an extension. If you remember last offseason, he actually requested a trade from the Cincinnati Bengals because he wasn't able to get that extension last offseason. So there's going to be a lot of pressure from Hendrickson and his group, and of course the Cincinnati Bengals, to try to come to terms on a contract extension. Here's what Duke Tobin had to say in regards to Trey Hendrickson. He said, has he earned a pay raise and a bump in an extension? He has. We're cognizant of that, and we will give that to him. But whether we agree on what that looks like is what is going to be determined. We can't have guys at the top of the payroll in every position, right? We'll do what we can. We'll do what we feel is right, and we will try to get Trey re-signed. It's not giving anybody an extension. It's agreeing with somebody on an extension. And really, there is a lot to sort through here when you're talking about Trey Hendrickson and a potential contract extension with this football team. Obviously, he is going to be 30 years of age. And Cincinnati historically doesn't pay guys over the age of 30. He actually is 30 years of age at this point. So that would be pretty unprecedented for them to pay a guy that was going into that stage of his career. And Tobin's last point does make some sense. Now, at the same time, don't let him confuse you with what he is saying. For the, right when it comes out there, obviously it seems like it is unlikely that you would be able to pay Joe Burrow top-of-the-line money, Ja'Marr Chase top-of-the-line money, and Trey Hendrickson and Tee Higgins. Obviously, that's kind of hard to wrap your head around at this point, but there are teams that are able to do that. You take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles. How many guys are they paying over that $20 million a year mark? Several. And I think that really kind of makes puts a lot of pressure on the Cincinnati Bengals for them to be able to make this happen, because there are other teams around the league that are doing things like this. And it's up to them to kind of change their ways and find a way where they can get a guy like Trey Hendrickson on the contract that he is seeking, because he has been such a phenomenal player for them on defense. Imagine if Cincinnati was not able to have Trey Hendrickson on their defense. They were horrible with him. He was the sack leader in the National Football League. Imagine if they did not have Trey Hendrickson out there rushing the passer. That wouldn't even have been, they wouldn't have even been able to roll a team out there on defense. They would have been just that bad. He's incredibly valuable. Let's take a look here at the top paid defensive ends per year in the NFL at this point. And pretty remarkable that Trey Hendrickson is not on this list. He certainly wants to find his way onto this list. Now, when you look at these top guys, obviously they are a lot younger than Trey Hendrickson, and that's certainly something the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson are going to have to work through. But that's crazy that he is not even in the top 10. I believe he's either 11 or 12 when it comes to how much he is making each year at that position. And it's really up to Cincinnati to try to figure this out, because it is one of their main goals this offseason is to find a way to make Trey Hendrickson stay in Cincinnati, because he truly is a game changer and a game wrecker, and he totally changes your football team and obviously more specifically your defense. Next, we're going to spend some time talking about Ja'Marr Chase. Obviously, a very important offseason for Ja'Marr Chase as well. So that is going to be coming up around the corner. But before that, we got to give a shout out to our friends at GameTime. Today's show is presented by GameTime. GameTime is a new feature called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. Still some tickets for the big game if you want to get down to New Orleans and check that out. Obviously, those are very, very expensive, but still a couple of those on sale with our friends over at GameTime. Check those out if you have the ability to do so. Also, of course, Red Spring Training right around the corner. That excites me very much. They've made several moves. Feels like they're going to be competent this season in 2025. My two favorite features on GameTime: the seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy with GameTime. Secondly, the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature up front allows you to see your total up front, so you don't get hit with any of those surprise fees at checkout like some of those other ticketing companies can get you with. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, all guaranteed. All right, now let's spend some time talking about Ja'Marr Chase here. The Bengals and Ja'Marr Chase enter another very critical offseason after failing last season to reach a contract extension, and Cincinnati's got to be just kicking themselves for that at this point. They offered him a deal, but it was not what he was looking for, and frankly, it was not what he deserved to make either. And then Ja'Marr Chase goes out there and wins the Triple Crown. So obviously the price for Ja'Marr Chase has only gone up over the course of the past year. Let's take a look at what Duke Tobin had to say to Kelsey Conway in regards to Ja'Marr Chase. Says it's a priority for us. It's something we feel like there's a framework to work off of. Should be a pretty easy framework to work off of. Guys in this position have recently redone contracts. We believe in Ja'Marr. He's very important to us. The other guys that have done contracts are very important to their teams. So we believe there's a real framework to work off of. I would expect that we could come together on something that makes sense for both sides. I have my thoughts on this in a moment, but first, an opportunity for you guys to get involved with our show here at Bengals Breakdown. What is your confidence level in the Bengals executing the Ja'Marr Chase deal? Scale it for us 1 to 10 in the comments section, 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Now, this framework that Tobin is talking about is, of course, Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb when it comes to the wide receiver market at this point. But that was the range last year. Ja'Marr Chase went out and won the Triple Crown this past season, so that number has gone up astronomically. I wouldn't be surprised if Ja'Marr Chase is pushing that $40 million a year mark when it comes to wide receiver pay. As you can tell right here by this graphic, Justin Jefferson is the highest paid wide receiver at $35 million per year. He's certainly going to blow that out of the water. Ja'Marr Chase is going to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the National Football League. It's up to Cincinnati that they get it done and get it done efficiently without having to screw around. Look, if I'm Ja'Marr Chase, I don't come near the Bengals facility until this gets worked out, right? You kind of had your, you want to call it a diva moment. I think he was probably doing the right thing holding out, right? It's unfortunate that he kind of stunk up the joint week one. Is probably a big reason why you lost that game, was because the drama that you had out there on the football field with Ja'Marr Chase having not been at training camp. But at the same time, he went out there and dominated the 2024 NFL season, winning that Triple Crown, and it wasn't even close, really, to be completely honest with you. So he proved his point out there with his performance. Now it's time for him to get his money from the Cincinnati Bengals organization. This is the second most important decision this organization has ever made in its history. The first, of course, was paying Joe Burrow. The second is paying Ja'Marr Chase. Have to find a way to get this done. He is one of the main cornerstones of your franchise, and it's really inexcusable to not get this deal done with Ja'Marr Chase. Absolutely has to get done, and it should be priority number one for this football team. All right, before we get out of here, do want to bring this up. Another tweet from Kelsey Conway. Conway says, another interesting nugget from my interview with Duke Tobin is that he revealed that he meets with Joe Burrow before every offseason gets underway and has already met with Burrow ahead of this critical offseason. Just wanted to bring this up because I think it should make us Bengals fans feel pretty good, right? Look, I definitely believe that players play, coaches coach, and front office people do front office stuff. But when you have a guy like Joe Burrow, that is on pace to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback to ever play this game, if he gets some championships, certainly could be in that category. You want to make this guy happy at all costs. Joe Burrow kind of has the on-the-field stuff mastered. Obviously, he's got to continue to do it and continue to build off it. But I think as an organization, they should let him in to the things that they are doing. He should be privy to these conversations that Duke Tobin and front office members are having. And it's good to see that they are, because the priority needs to be to make that guy right there happy at all times, right? Because as long as Joe Burrow is in the city of Cincinnati and playing quarterback for this franchise, this team always has a chance at winning a world championship. And mark my words, they will one day, so long as Joe Burrow finishes his career in Cincinnati. If he does that, there's no way that this team does not win a Super Bowl. Always have to make sure that he is happy, and if he's staying involved in these conversations, he should understand that, hey, it's going to be difficult to bring in all these guys, but hopefully Cincinnati as an organization is doing everything they can to make it happen. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you have not done so already, youtube.com/Bengals TV. We will have you covered all off-season long here at the channel. Mailbag time here on Bengals Breakdown. Use hashtag Bengals or Super Chat to skip the line altogether and get in on our mailbag here at the show. Hopefully we get some good questions in that we can discuss here. Going to be talking about, of course, draft stuff, as well as some potential free agency conversation as well. Get those questions in, hashtag Bengals or Super Chat to skip the line altogether. Again, really important to use the hashtag Bengals, because if you don't, my guy Chris Daughtry is not going to be able to see the questions come in. Got over 100 people hanging out here with our live stream. Hit that thumbs up icon for us. Continue to do that. And Chris says that we are all good for our mailbag. Got plenty of questions in. It is not too late, even while we are in the middle of our segment. Get those hashtag Bengals questions in, and we will do our best to make room for you here on our mailbag. Make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter at StoneShields_. All of our Bengals Breakdown content will be posted to my Twitter page. Also seeing a lot more of our short form content go up on my Twitter page as well. Trying to get to 500 followers. We are approaching that mark. I believe we're only a couple followers away from making that happen. So give me a follow over on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at StoneShields_. All right, our first question here on our mailbag is from Dalton Mitchell. And Dalton says, should the Bengals draft an edge rusher or go and pick one up in free agency or trade? My pick is Chase Young. Very good question, Dalton. Appreciate your interaction here with our mailbag. I do believe in some capacity Cincinnati needs to find a way to get another edge rusher in, whether that's through free agency or the draft. We will see. To be honest with you, I don't have a preference. If there's a guy in the draft there at 17 that's sitting there that you really like a Mykel Williams, then obviously you take him. Obviously, free agency happens, though, before the draft, and that might need to get addressed then as well. I personally think it would be a good idea to bring in another veteran player that can rush the passer. I love your Chase Young suggestion. I would love to see him in Cincinnati, former Ohio State Buckeye, of course. Would love to come back to the state of Ohio, I am sure, and was picked in that Joe Burrow NFL draft. And, a young guy that, his career hasn't really panned out the way a lot of people expected. I think a lot of people thought he was going to be like a defensive player of the year candidate each and every year. That really hasn't worked out for him, but I still think he is a very valuable pass rusher, especially if you put him across from a guy like Trey Hendrickson. You really can make some noise in that department. So as far as a preference between draft or free agency, don't really have one, but I definitely think it would behoove the Bengals to bring in a veteran guy that has the ability to rush the passer. Tim Tyra, would Malachi Starks be an upgrade at safety? Absolutely. I love Malachi Starks, everything about him as a football player. Didn't have the best year in 2024. I don't know if he regressed, but he didn't make as many splashy plays as he did in 2023. But if Malachi Starks is sitting there at number 17, I take him, and I do not think twice about it. He's a guy that could come in at that safety position, start immediately, and make an immediate impact. He's great in the run game, and he's a great tackler as well. How many missed tackles did the Bengals defense have in 2024? Malachi Starks could come in and clean a lot of that up immediately. Also has great ball skills. So if Starks is there at 17, you take him. And like I said, you don't think twice about it. From Santiago Culpepper, thoughts on the Eric All Jr. news? Well, unfortunately, it's very sad, obviously, is your first reaction to the news. You kind of knew it coming in, though. Had the injury concerns, the medical concerns in college, had two very serious injuries in college at Iowa and at Michigan, towards ACL once in college, had the major spine issue in college as well. So that was always the red flag with Eric All Jr. So my reaction is, man, this is unfortunate. But now the urgency to bring back Mike Gesicki, I feel like, is even higher, despite the fact that they play tight end, but they don't really play the same position, so to speak. Gesicki more is kind of a slot receiver guy, and Eric All can bring a lot to you in the run blocking and pass blocking game as well. So this stings. This really hurts for the Cincinnati Bengals football team. There is absolutely no two ways around it. Hopefully he's back ready to go in 2026. But now, a position that you thought you didn't really have to worry too much about at that tight end spot, you might need to address via the draft or in free agency. But Tanner McLaughlin, who you took in the 6th round last year, he wasn't able to find himself onto the field. We'll see if he can develop into a guy that Cincinnati can trust in 2025. Will the Bengals bring back Mike Gesicki? It is the pinned comment of today's video. Let me know in the comment section. Type B for bring back or L for let leave. If that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. Take advantage of it. Get down in the comments. Let us know what you think. From Glacier, would you want Aaron Donald or J.J. Watt to come out of retirement to play for the Bengals for only one season? Well, J.J. Watt, he's done. For sure. He's been out of the game for a little bit too long, I would say, at this point. Prime J.J. Watt, yeah, that would be great. And if Prime J.J. Watt wasn't playing for the Houston Texans all those years that you lost to him in the playoffs, you probably would have won some of those, or at least one of those playoff games. But that's not going to happen with J.J. Watt. It's fun to fantasize about. It's a good question. I appreciate it. And as far as Aaron Donald, yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want Aaron Donald? One of the best defensive players to ever play the game. Obviously, there's some awkwardness with him, ending the Super Bowl, sacking your quarterback, not technically sacking him, but getting home on your quarterback and just completely going right by. Big Q, Mr. Undrafted, Quentin Spain. But, yeah, I mean, it would be great to have Aaron Donald back, but unfortunately that is not realistic. Bengals got to figure out who they're going to bring in at that position, though, because you can't just keep running it back with the guys that you have at that defensive end spot. From Andrew, do you think the Bengals will draft a tight end if Tyler Warren stays for the 17th round, or do you think we're going to stick with drafting a defender? I think I know what you meant, Andrew. If Tyler Warren's there at 17, do you take him? It's an interesting question. Because at that 17 spot in the draft, you might be in a spot where, hey, you just take the best player available. And if Tyler Warren's there at 17, he's probably the best player available. But I just think your defense needs so much help. Like, it would be tough to, be looking at Tyler Warren and just pass up on him. It would be tough, right? But keep in mind, Eric All Jr. is going to be back in 2026. And you really like what you saw from him at the start of his rookie year. Going to be without him in 2025. I just think taking a tight end in the first round, yeah, it would be enticing because Tyler Warren's such a great player. But I think you got to go defense in the first round unless an interior offensive lineman completely blows you away. But to me, that's a defensive pick at 17 overall. We'll continue with our show here in a moment. But first, want to give a shout-out to our friends over at PrizePicks. The big game is almost here. It's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. PrizePicks is also giving away a free pick for the big game where one of the starting quarterbacks will only need to throw 1 yard to win. That starting quarterback, by the way, is Patrick Mahomes. That is the free square. If he throws for at least 1 yard, you win. If you're correct on at least one or more stat projection, you can win real cash. Check out the promos tab to tail any of our Super Sweat Millie winners' big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of the $1 million in promo funds. They also have the Flex Play here at PrizePicks. Really enjoy the Flex Play. The best thing about the Flex Play is you don't need to get all 3 correct to win. You can just win 2 of those selections and have an opportunity to double your money. There's the free square I was just talking about there with Patrick Mahomes, more than half a passing yard. Obviously, you take it. Saquon Barkley, more than 112.5 rushing yards. That guy's been on an absolute tear. You could argue he's the MVP of the league. That's a lot of fun there as well. And Xavier Worthy, more than 5.5 rushing yards, perhaps on some jet sweep stuff. Andy Reid could get a little creative, find a way to get Xavier Worthy the ball as a rusher. That is our Flex Play slate here at Chat Sports. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's PrizePicks. Run your game. Dr. B, do you think Al Golden can get John Maeda good enough to be a starter? Ooh, interesting question here from Dr. B. I wouldn't say a starter, right? Logan Wilson's going to be one of your starters. You have a decision to make with Jermaine Pratt. Do you cut him? Perhaps draft a guy or what? John Maeda's going to make the team again, and I know that Al Golden's going to develop him into an even better player, and he's going to continue to play on special teams for you. As far as being a starter out there, every snap, probably not. Obviously was an undrafted guy. Plenty of undrafted guys starting the league. It's not necessarily about that. I really like John Maeda, but I think if Cincinnati ultimately is going with him at that linebacker spot as a starter, there's probably some injuries that have occurred elsewhere. But I've got a lot of confidence in Al Golden. I've got a lot of confidence in John Maeda. So if he develops the way that Al Golden has developed a lot of other players, certainly could be a possibility for Cincinnati. From It's K1 SWN, you think we bring B.J. Hill back for the 2025 season? I would consider it unlikely, to be completely honest with you, to bring B.J. Hill back. I think you like the the youth that you have at that defensive tackle spot. Obviously, your defense was dreadful in last season, but what you saw there from McKinley Jackson and what you saw there from Chris Jenkins Jr., your second and third round pick respectively last year, you saw a lot of good things. And you're bringing in Al Golden, who of course was at Notre Dame for the past 3 years. I think you have a lot of confidence that he's going to be able to develop those guys. I like B.J. Hill a lot. Bengals legend. Been a part of a lot of great football here in Cincinnati, but I would be surprised if he was back next season. From Felicia, will Al Golden get the Bengals defense turned around? Absolutely. I am really ecstatic about Al Golden. I think Zach Taylor hit it out of the park with this hire. Al Golden was great when he was with the team in 2020 and 2021. I'm expecting more of the same. His press conference really blew me away, the things he said, kind of how he intends to install his defense, develop his young players. That's the key word, right? When you talk about Al Golden, is development. That is why he is here. You have all these young draft picks that haven't really lived up to their expectation, and the hope is that Golden's going to be able to develop them so they can, be competent players for you out there defensively. I'm ecstatic about it. I love everything about Al Golden. I'm excited, and more importantly, you don't need this to be a top 10 defense. You need it to be a competent defense. Look what you have offensively. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, he very nearly made the playoffs at 9-8 with one of the worst defenses in the National Football League. I would argue probably the worst for most of the year. You just don't have to be that bad. So the bar that you need to cross for Al Golden really is not that high, and I have the utmost faith that he's going to be able to make it happen. What's your confidence level in Al Golden? Scale it for us in the comment section, 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Here we go again from Tim Tyra. Is Zach Taylor's job on the line now? Could this be his last year depending on what happens? Yeah, absolutely. I think, we talked about Zach Taylor a ton throughout the season. A lot of people calling for his job, whatever. It was kind of ludicrous to me at that point to be calling for his job. But I would say, yeah, I think he starts out the season not necessarily on the hot seat, but if you lose your first couple of games again, that seat is crank that seat up, essentially, if Zach Taylor is not able to get it done early on in the season. If you miss the playoffs again, I think there is a very real possibility that you do fire him. This team, this roster, you got the best quarterback in the National Football League. You got too many good pieces to miss the playoffs again in 2025. CWT, what is your opinion on the mock that says we take offense round 1? I don't know exactly which mock you're referring to. If it's an interior offensive lineman that you fall in love with, okay. But if you're taking a tight end or a receiver or a running back, that to me is not a good decision for the Cincinnati Bengals. You got holes all over your defense. You really can just pick any defensive player in the draft that you think is really, really good, and they're going to have an opportunity to make an impact for you immediately, whether it's safety, corner, linebacker, pass rusher, interior defensive lineman. You could use help everywhere on the defensive side of the ball. Now, if you're enjoying this mailbag, we appreciate you. Sub now for more. We're going to be doing these every single Wednesday. It's going to be a staple on our live show. Don't miss out on any of our mailbags. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/Bengals TV. Do you believe in our cornerbacks to do what needs to be done? Dalton Mitchell. Good question. I really was a fan of Daxville and what he was doing early on in the season. I might even go as far as to say if Daxville doesn't get hurt, the Bengals make the playoffs. I know it's kind of a bold statement to make, but I kind of believe it. We'll see the player he looks like coming back from the injury. Cam Taylor-Britt concerns me. Even with Al Golden coming in, I'm not exactly sure you can roll him out there as a starter on your defense. So corner's a spot that I think is just as important as pass rusher that you need on this defense. And if the Bengals took a corner in the first round, I would absolutely love that as well. I also think they need to bring in a veteran corner. You just have youth all over that room. You at least need one voice in there that's kind of been around the block. They don't have that at this point. So to answer your question, I don't know if I do believe in the corners that you have right now. Josh Newton certainly showed some promise as a fifth-round pick. I'm probably higher on Josh Newton than Cam Taylor-Britt, to be completely honest with you. Hopefully DJ Turner and Dax Hill, respond well coming back from their respective injuries, but I think new pieces in that cornerback room are very much a need. You think if we don't pay Jamar Chase, we let him walk? I'm going to go out there and say there's no way that this team screws up the Jamar Chase deal. I think they're going to find a way to get it done. They're going to find a way to make him the highest paid non-quarterback to ever play this game. And I think they feel really good about their opportunity to do that. Jamar Chase does not want to leave Joe Burrow. He wants to be in Cincinnati for the long haul with his guy, Joe Burrow. And I've got a lot of confidence that Cincinnati is going to be able to get it done. As far as Higgins and Hendrickson, my confidence level is not that high. But with Jamar, they'll figure it out. Will the Bengals extend Trey Hendrickson? Let me know in the comment section of today's video. Type Y for yes or N for no in the comments. This one worries me, to be honest. I again, just said it there at the end of our mailbag. I'm not really worried about Jamar. They might, mess around and have it take a heck of a lot longer than it needs to. But I think they'll figure it out. Now with Hendrickson and Higgins, I don't know. This organization hasn't really given us reason to be optimistic in recent years, right? They did what needed to be done with Joe Burrow. I think they're going to do what needs to be done with Jamar Chase. But are they capable of doing Hendrickson and Higgins as well? I don't know. We'll see. Another one here from Tim Tyre. Do you think they should pay their number one guys more or play their number one guys more in preseason? There was a time when our starters played most of their preseason games. I know we used to during the Marvin Lewis era. It's interesting. Zach Taylor, in his defense, I mean, the Bengals have always stunk under Zach Taylor in September, right? That's a fact. But in his defense, he pivoted off some of the things that he did typically. You saw the starters play a little bit in the preseason against Tampa Bay. You saw him have more joint practices with other football teams, and you saw him pivot off some stuff. And obviously that didn't work out either, so he's going to have to pivot again. I think from a defensive perspective, yeah, those guys need to be out there more. Do we need to be rolling Joe Burrow out for a full half of football in the preseason? No. But defensively, yeah, I think that certainly is fair to say. CWT says he thinks it's more important to extend Hendrickson than Higgins. That's interesting. I don't disagree with you. I don't necessarily agree, but I don't disagree with you. I just can't imagine if the Bengals didn't have Trey Hendrickson in 2024. I mean, how bad would they have been? They would have been just. I mean, words can't even explain how bad this football team would be if Trey Hendrickson wasn't out there for your defense. So I don't know. I think he definitely can still win a lot of games without Tee Higgins, but. If Myles Murphy wasn't such a bust, yeah, I think you could think about moving off Trey Hendrickson, but that's just not the reality of the situation. Keep the comments coming. Let me know in the comments section. Will the Bengals extend Trey Hendrickson? Type Y for yes or N for no. And we will get ready for our final segment here on our live edition of Bengals Breakdown. If you want more Cincinnati Bengals draft coverage, hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/BengalsTV. We will be here all offseason long with mock drafts galore for you guys. So don't miss out on any of our coverage. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/BengalsTV. All right, coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about Daniel Jeremiah's new mock draft. Daniel Jeremiah, of course, works for NFL Network, and I always like Daniel Jeremiah's mock drafts because they're a little bit more different than some of the other mock drafts that you get from a lot of other of these gurus out there that cover the NFL, and we will work through all the picks that he has leading up to the Bengals selection at number 17 overall. So let's get it started here at number 1. He's got the Tennessee Titans taking Abdul Carter. He was the first guy that I saw mocked Carter number 1 overall. Look, this guy's a freak now. Make no mistake about it. The Micah Parsons comparisons are real. He was incredible in the college football playoff, and he was significantly hurt as well. I don't think it's crazy to have him at number 1 overall. You got Travis Hunter at number 2 to Cleveland. That would be something. Travis Hunter matched up with Jamar Chase for several years in the Battle of Ohio. That certainly would be interesting. Travis Hunter, of course, is a can't-miss guy. Don't hate that pick as well. He's got Cam Ward going as the first quarterback to the New York Giants over Shedeur Sanders. Then he has Will Campbell, the offensive tackle out of LSU, going 4 to New England. At 5, Mason Graham, a defensive tackle from Michigan. Then he's got Shedeur Sanders going number 6 to the Las Vegas Raiders, kind of pairing up for Tom Brady there in Vegas. Tyler Warren at number 7. I know a lot of people perhaps interested in Tyler Warren after the injury to Eric All Jr., but he's simply going to be gone before number 17. Ted McMillan as the first wide receiver there at number 8. I think he's clearly the best wide receiver in this class. Mykel Williams at number 9. A lot of people hoping he would be around at number 17, not according to Daniel Jeremiah. But if a surprise here, Tyler Brooker going in the top 10 at that offensive guard position. Cincinnati, of course, needs an offensive guard, another interior offensive lineman. Followed up immediately after that at number 11, Ashton Jeanty at number 12 overall as well. First running back off the board. Then to 13, Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle out of Texas, followed up by his buddy, Jedi Barron, out of Texas as well. Will Johnson at 15. The Bengals certainly love their Michigan players. And I think if Johnson's there at 17, you definitely think about it if you are Zach Taylor, Duke Tobin, and company. And then, of course, you have Jalen Walker at that number 17 spot. Here we go. Walter Nolen is who Daniel Jeremiah has mocked to the Cincinnati Bengals at that number 17 overall positioning. We've talked a little bit about Walter Nolen. Nolen, of course, out of Ole Miss, has played in some big-time football games. And by the way, is having a really strong showing down at the Reese's Senior Bowl. And by the way, he has Jahad Campbell, Alabama linebacker, going at number 19 overall to Tampa Bay. Mel Kiper had Jahad Campbell mocked to Cincinnati. But first, the pinned comment of today's video: would you draft Walter Nolen at that number 17 overall selection? Let me know in the comments section. Type Y for yes or N for no. If that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. Take advantage of it. Get down in the comments. Let us know what you think. Here's what Jeremiah said about Nolen. He said Nolen is a dynamic interior disruptor. He would be a key part of a turnaround under new Bengals defensive coordinator Al Golden. Nolen, of course, is a former 5-star recruit. This is a guy that played really elite high school level football before going to college, was at Texas A&M for a couple of years before finishing out his collegiate career with the Ole Miss Rebels. He's a guy that's got really violent hands and is really explosive at that first step, and that's obviously something a lot of NFL teams really are looking for. The Bengals certainly could use a guy along the interior of their defensive line. I think they really feel really good about guys like Chris Jenkins Jr. and a guy like McKinley Jackson as well, but Walter Nolen is a guy that could probably develop into being a starter in the National Football League. The only thing that I worry about with Walter Nolen is the fact that he might be a project guy. I am not looking for a project guy at this number 17 overall selection. If you are Al Golden, if you are Zach Taylor, you are looking for a guy that can come into your defense and start immediately as a rookie. You really haven't been able to do that with any of the guys that you are drafting, and you sit there and you say, oh, Myles Murphy, he was a project. Well, did you really think he was going to be a project when you took him, or were you just saying that he was a project when you realized, oh, shoot, he's not going to be able to start for us? It's going to be really important, in my opinion, for Cincinnati to get a starter on defense in the first round. That, to me, is priority number one when you're talking about Cincinnati and the NFL draft here in 2025. We'll continue with our show here in a moment. But first, I want to give a shout-out to our friends over at GameTime, because today's show is presented by GameTime. GameTime is a new feature called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. Still some opportunity to perhaps go down and check out the big game in New Orleans. You can check out some of those tickets on GameTime. Also, I'm really fired up about Reds spring training. That is only a matter of weeks away. Before that is underway, head on down to Goodyear, Arizona, get you some tickets courtesy of our friends over at GameTime. My two favorite features on GameTime: the seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy with GameTime. Secondly, the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature up front allows you to see your total up front, so you don't get hit with any of those surprise fees at checkout like some of those other ticketing companies can get you with. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, the lowest prices, all guaranteed. All right, let's take a look at this next section here of Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft, because there is a guy that I have a lot of interest in at that number 24 overall spot. He's got Malachi Starks falling all the way to the Minnesota Vikings at number 24. Look, if Malachi Starks is available, I'm taking him, and I'm not thinking twice about him at this point, to be completely honest with you. Look, you had holes all over your defense. You need help all over your defense. And as I just mentioned, I'm looking for a guy that can come in and contribute to your football team day one. Some of those edge rushers, some of those interior guys earlier on in the draft, I'm not sure they can come in and make an immediate impact. Malachi Starks, he can come in and be a starting safety for you immediately. There is no doubt in my mind about it. He showed it in Georgia. Did he have the best year in 2024? No, but the skills are clearly there. The competitive spirit is clearly there, and I think he's going to be a really great player in the National Football League. Before we continue talking about Malachi Starks, I want to know your guys' opinion. Let me know. Would you take Malachi Starks if he is available there at that number 17 overall selection? Type 1 for yes or 0 for no for me in the comments of today's video. So Starks is an elite run defender. And he's also a really great tackler, something that your safeties really struggled with all throughout the season. Was Geno Stone and Jordan Battle really good in the run game? No. Were they good tacklers? No. All over your defense, that was one of your biggest issues all season long, was the amount of missed tackles you had. This guy is a sure-handed tackler. He's an elite athlete as well with some great ball skills. That interception against Clemson that he had in week 1, just absolutely unbelievable. One of the best interceptions I've ever seen. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. It also has really quick feet when it comes to getting in and out of breaks. He's a guy that if he needs to match up with a wide receiver, he can do that. Do I feel like Geno Stone has the ability to do that? No, I don't. Here is what Daniel Jeremiah had to say exactly about Malachi Starks. He said Starks didn't make as many plays as we're accustomed to seeing from him in 2024, but people at Georgia rave about his intangibles, leadership, and work ethic. He has the versatility to play over the top or cover the slot. And as I mentioned, he can really do a ton for you out there on the football field. This is a guy that was a 2022 national champion. He was a 5-star recruit, was an All-American in 2023, first-team All-SEC in 2023, and he excels in zone. Obviously, we know that Al Golden likes playing a lot of man-to-man defense, but he's going to play his fair share of zone as well. And a lot of times, Lou Anarumo would run his zone out there, and the Bengals would go out there and just cover air. That's something they really like to do a lot, was cover air. Well, that's not good. You need to cover the football players out there running routes on the football field. That's something Malachi Starks certainly can do. He reads the quarterback so well. Some of the interceptions that he's able to create is just him reading the defense, doing a tremendous job of that. He can be a step slow when it comes to, sinking his hips when he's matched up with some faster wide receivers. So that really is the only drawback, in my opinion, to Malachi Starks. It's really the only thing that concerns me about him and his abilities out there on the football field. But the pro comp for him is Jessie Bates III. Obviously, you don't want to get too carried away with the comps or what have you. But I think you hear that name around the city of Cincinnati, your ears perk up a little bit, because Cincinnati really misses Jessie Bates III more than really anybody in the history of the franchise, to be completely honest with you. That guy was unbelievable, and you've been looking to fill that spot, and you've just failed to do so. Kirby Smart, his coach, also compared him to Champ Bailey, but Geno Stone's a guy certainly that needs to be a lot better if he doesn't get cut this offseason. To me, I would cut Geno Stone, but I'm not so sure Cincinnati is going to do that. Signed a 2-year deal with the team. Year 1 was a disaster, despite the fact he was able to create some interceptions for you late in the season and some kind of garbage time situations, in my opinion. But I'm ready to move off Geno Stone. I'm not quite sure this organization is. Brought up Kirby Smart. Let's see what he had to say about his guy, Malachi Starks. Kirby said Malachi is very similar to that in terms of his ability to play man-to-man. When I say similar to that, he's comparing him to Champ Bailey, who's one of the best corners Really one of the best defensive football players of my generation. His ability to play safety. He can go out and play corner if he had to. He's just a tremendous athlete. But with all those accolades, he's one of the most humble, great kids I've ever been around. To be completely honest with you, I don't want to take a shot at anybody on the Cincinnati Bengals team, but I think you could use a guy that could come in and be a really humble guy for you on the defensive side of the ball that can also make plays. I would really encourage you guys to check out some of the interviews that Malachi Starks has done. He really impresses me. Again, this is a guy that should be a senior in college, but he's going to come out early and go to the NFL draft. I'm absolutely over the moon about this guy, Malachi Starks. Again, I don't really think he's going to fall to 17. That's what Jeremiah has. I would be surprised if he did. But for me, it is not a question whatsoever. If he's there at number 17, you take him. Make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter. All of our Bengals Breakdown content will be posted to my Twitter page. We are on the road now to try to get to 600 followers on Twitter. So help me out. Give me a follow at StoneShields_. Who do you want to draft at number 17 overall? Let me know in the comments. You guys like that on Malachi Starks? I know I'm fired up about it. I know Tim Tyre is fired up about it. Tim was saying that right when we came live here on the show. But Malachi Starks to me he's that dude. And Haley says project isn't going to cut it. Absolutely. Going to need somebody that can come in here and contribute right away defensively. Again, Tyler Warren's sitting there. Yeah, it makes you think a little bit, but I don't think you can go offense unless there's an interior offensive lineman that you completely fall in love with. But even if Booker's there at 17, I don't know if he's a guy that you take that early if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. But we'll see. To me, it's defense or nothing at this point in the draft for the Bengals. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you have not done so already. YouTube.com/BengalsTV. We will be live again next Wednesday. This 4 o'clock, 4:15, 4:30 time slot, kind of the money slot for us here at Bengals Breakdown. So we will see you next week again live. Hit that sub button, YouTube.com/BengalsTV.